الحمد لله حق حمده، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله وعبده محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وبارك تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد. So inshallah, tonight's topic is about the dangers of the nafs. The dangers of the nafs. So a few weeks ago, our first intro was issues where individuals as a collective group may not succeed due to their differing in leadership. But all of us have a struggle as individuals with our own nufus and our own souls. So that is an ongoing struggle that doesn't end until we leave this world. So, inshallah, we'll cover some different readings and different books regarding this subject. And the goal is, one is to just be on guard and aware and see how critical this is and how important it is. And then second is that how we can take steps and actions to actually rectify our souls with the correct iman. Because as we will see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He describes shaitan as inna kayda shaitani kana da'ifa, as the one who knows how to take steps and guard themselves. The plot of shaitan is very weak. But as for the nafs is more dangerous than any enemy. As one of the hadith mentioned, inna a'da a'da'ik nafsuka allati bayna janbayk. So anyway, the first reading is, how does it apply to the upcoming month of Ramadan? Although the importance of rectifying our nafs is something that is year-round, lifelong, but as Imam or Sheikh Muhammad bin Salih al-Uthaymin rahimahullah, he mentions in his work Majalis Ramadan, from the wisdoms of fasting. Many people, they get excited when Ramadan comes because they think of just the physical benefits of fasting. It helps my health. Somebody might have, Allah give afiyah, high blood sugar or high blood pressure or this illness or that illness. And in general, fasting is good for them, right? But there's bigger wisdoms of fasting and how it helps our nafs than just simply our body. The Imam, he says, من حكم الصيام التمرن على ضبط النفس. That the wisdoms of fasting, from it is training oneself on restraining the nafs, والسيطرة عليها, and having a control and a command over it. والقوة على الإمساك بزمامها حتى يتمكن من التحكم فيها ويقودها إلى ما فيه خيرها وسعادتها. Says that another benefit of fasting is to gain strength on holding its reins, like when you're riding a horse or an animal, there's ropes tied to it. So the nafs, he's saying similarly, fasting gives one strength in holding the ropes of the nafs until the person can get to the level that he leads it to what is good and what is its success and benefit. فَإِنَّ النَّفْسَ أَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. He says the nafs in its unrefined state, that it is ever inclining towards evil. إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي, except those whom Allah has mercy on. فَإِذَا أَطْلَقَ الْمَرْءُ لِنَفْسِهِ عَنَانَهَا, when the person lets go of his the reins and the ropes of his nafs, أَوْقَعَتْهُ فِي الْمَهَالِكِ, it will lead him to destruction. وإذا ملك أمرها وسيطر عليها تمكن من قيادتها إلى أعلى المراتب وأسلم المطالب. But when he controls its affairs and gains dominance over it, then he will be able to lead it to the highest of levels and objectives. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentioned in Surah Al-Shams some of uh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Shams that what actually leads one to success or could lead one to failure is how they either refine or don't refine their nafs. Allah, He takes 11 qasam, 11 oaths, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا, by the sun and its early morning light and day, وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا, and the moon as it follows it, وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا, and the day and as it shines, وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا, and the night as it covers the sun or the day, وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا, والليل إذا يغشاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها, and the sky and the one who had built it, والأرض وما طحاها, and the nafs and the earth and the one who had expanded it, ونفس وما سواها, and then Allah, He mentions after all these oaths the nafs and the one who had created it and fashioned it. And then comes what is known as Jawab al-Qasm. What is the answer after all of these oaths? He said, فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who had given and clarified for the nafs the path to good and the path to evil. As is mentioned in the Athar, in the tafsirs of Imam ibn Jarir and Ibn Kathir, that Abu al-Aswad al-Duwali, he said that Imran ibn Husayn radiallahu anhuma, who was the Sahabi, the companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked me, he said to me, أَرَأَيْتَ مَا يَعْمَلُ النَّاسِ فِيهِ وَيَتَكَادَحُونَ فِيهِ أَشَيْءٌ قُضِيَ عَلَيْهِمْ وَمَضَى عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ قَدَرٍ قَدْ سَبَقَ أو فيما يستقبلون مما آتاهم به نبيهم عليه الصلاة والسلام وأكدت عليهم الحجة. So he asked him a question. The summary is, do you see the actions of people that they strive very hard to perform? Is it because of the destiny and the qadr that had already been decided by Allah in the past? Or is it something that their Prophet, peace be upon him, brought to them, and there is clear evidence against them for the actions that they have done? So then the Tabi'i, Abu al-Aswad, he said, بَلْ شَيْءٌ قُضِيَ عَلَيْهِمْ, no, it is something that has been decreed over them. قَالَ فَهَلْ يَكُونُ ذَلِكَ ظُلْمًا. So Imran ibn Hussein is knowing the answer to the question. He's not looking to learn the answer, he's trying to test the student. So he said, isn't this a form of dhulm? Isn't this a form of injustice? قال فَفَزَعْتُ مِنْهُ فَزَعًا شَدِيدًا. So Aswad, he mentioned after this story that I got very scared and kind of thrown off guard by Imran ibn Hussein. قلت له ليس شيء إلا وهو خلقه وملكه يدي هو ملك وملك يدي. So then he answered, he said that there is nothing in existence except Allah created it and it is under control of His hand. And then he read the ayah of Surah Al-Anbiya, I believe it is, لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون, that Allah is never questioned about what He does, but the creation is questioned. So then Imran ibn Hussein, he gave him the glad tidings. He said, سَدَّدَكَ اللَّهُ إِنَّمَا سَأَلْتُكَ أَظُنُّهُ أَنَا لِأَخْبُرَ عَقْلَكَ إِنَّ رَجُلًا بِوَزِنَةِ أَوْ جُهَيْنَةٍ. So he said, may Allah guide you and keep you firm. I only asked you that so I could test your knowledge. I wanted to know your knowledge. And then he mentions not this being his own idea, but he's giving the proof that it went back to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said that a man from Muzayna or Juhayna came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, Ya Rasulullah, أرأيت ما يعمل الناس فيه ويتكادحون أشيء قضي عليهم ومضى عليهم من قدر سبق أو فيما يستقبلون مما آتاهم به نبيهم عليه الصلاة والسلام وأكدت به عليه الحجة. So this man, a Sahabi, who he's telling the story of, asked this same question that Imran ibn Hussein asked of Rasulullah. That are the actions of people part of Qadr that Allah decreed over them, or that is part of Allah's qada that He decreed over them, and or is it something that, and that which has been narrated to them by the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the evidence has clearly been placed against, has been established against them. في شيء قد قضي عليه. So the Prophet ﷺ gave the answer, no, it was decreed against them, meaning that it was something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed to happen. But we're going to explain how this relates to the nafs after this, inshallah. قال ففيما نعمل. So then this Bedouin asked, then why do we do action if Allah decreed? قال من كان الله خلقه لإحدى المنزلتين يهيئه لها وتصديق ذلك في كتاب الله ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها. The Prophet ﷺ gave the answer. He said that whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created either for one of the two stations, Jannah or Jahannam, then this person chooses the actions that leads them to one or the other. And the affirmation of that in the Quran is the ayah in Surah Al-Shams, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سُوَاهَا, the soul and the one who fashioned it. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Allah indicated and clarified for it the evil and bad action and from the good action. And this is narrated in the Muslim Imam Ahmad and the Sahih Imam Muslim. So anyway, what is the path to success? Allah, He said, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, that the one who has purified his nafs. And the tafsir of this comes in the tafsir of Imam Ibn Kathir. He says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّى نَفْسَهُ. Successful is the one who purifies his soul, أي بطاعة الله, through the obedience of Allah. كما قال قتادة, just as the student of Ibn Abbas and the Tabi'i, Qatada said, وَطَهَّرَهَا مِنَ الْأَخْلَاقِ الدَّنِيَّةِ وَالرَّذَائِلِ. He cleansed his soul from filthy and low and evil character. ويروى نحوه عن مجاهد وعكرمة وسعيد بن جبير. And this similar explanation has come from the illustrious Tabi'un, Mujahid ibn Jabr, and Ikramah, and Sa'id ibn Jubayr. And then as the one who fails, Allah, He said, وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا, and indeed has lost and failed the one who doesn't restrain his nafs, أَخْمَلَهَا وَوَضَعَ مِنْهَا بِخُذْلَانِهِ إِيَّاهَا عَنِ الْهُدَى حَتَّى رَكِبَ الْمَعَاصِي. And in the tafsir of Imam Ibn Kathir, it comes that he filthified his soul by neglecting it from following guidance until he fulfilled sins and disobedience of Allah, وَتَرَكَ طَاعَةَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ, and he left the obedience of Allah. So anyway, that's just a brief introduction from how important this subject is. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He took 11 oaths, and then He explained the answer to that oath is successful is the one who purifies his soul by doing the righteous deeds and avoids the evil deeds, and the loser is the one who has followed his evil desires and done the bad deeds and filthified his soul. And then we look in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was a dua Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to make every morning and evening. And it's reported in the Sunan of Imam Ibn Dawood, or Imam Abu Dawood, excuse me, and the Sunan of Imam al-Tirmidhi, rahimahullah. That is, comes that from Abu Hurairah, he said that Abu Bakr said, "O Rasulullah, murni bi shay'in aquluhu idha asbahtu wa idha amsaytu." That command me or enjoin me to say something when I wake up in the morning and when I enter the evening. قال قل اللهم عالم الغيب والشهادة فاطر السماوات والأرض رب كل شيء ومليكه أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أعوذ بك من شر نفسي ومن شر الشيطان وشركه. In another narration, وَنَقْتَرَفَ عَلَى نَفْسِي سُوءًا أَوْ أَجُرَّهُ إِلَى مُسْلِمٍ. So the point of the dua, one is, look, this is Abu Bakr, he is the best of the Sahaba, and Rasulullah had the closest friendship with him. So if anybody wanted to help him, it would be Rasulullah. And he also told him to say this dua, قُلْهُ إِذَا أَصْبَحْتَ وَإِذَا أَمْسَيْتَ وَإِذَا أَخَذْتَ مُضْجَعَ, when you enter the morning, the evening, and when you go to bed. So he praised Allah, he said, "O Allah, the one who knows, أي عالم الغيب والشهادة أي ما غاب من العباد وظهر له." And this is from Tuhfatul Ahwazi, the explanation of Al-Mubarakfuri, that Allah is the one who knows what is hidden from the servants and that which is apparent to them. فاطر السماوات والأرض أي مخترعهما ومخترعهما وموجدهما على غير مثال سبق. That Allah is the one who invented the skies and the earth and brought them in existence without a previous example, a prototype. Usually when people make inventions, they look at what was the previous model and then they design the model. But nothing was in existence, and Allah in His perfect knowledge and qudra, He brought it to existence. رب كل شيء ومليكه فعيل بمعنى فاعل للمبالغة كالتقدير بمعنى القادر. So Allah is the Lord of everything, and He is the one who has full control of it. أعوذ بك من شر نفسي. Then going back to our topic, after praising Allah, which teaches us the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, it's before you make dua, you praise Allah. And then for us, we send salat and salam on the Prophet ﷺ, and then you make your dua. So you praise Allah, and then showing the importance of the dua, he asked, "Oh Allah, save me from the evil of my nafs." And then on Mubarakfuri he says, أي من ظهور السيئات الباطنية التي جبلت النفس عليها والتي جبلت النفس عليها. Now save me from the manifestations of the inward evil sins and acts that the nafs has been accustomed towards. And then the end of the dua, وَمِن شَرِّ الشَّيْطَانِ وَشِرْكِهِ, and another qira'ah wa sharaki. Allah save me from shaitan and his whispers to lead me to shirk, or his whispers to lead me to sin, his tricks and his plots, and it is حبائل الشيطان ومكايده. And then وَنَقْتَرَفَ عَلَى نَفْسِي سُوءًا أَوْ أَجُرَّهُ إِلَى مُسْلِمٍ. And then I commit evil against myself, or that is affected to another Muslim. Another dua of Rasulullah that shows us the nature of the nafs and how we should strive to avoid its negative potential. That there's a beautiful dua as reported in the Sahih of Imam Muslim, and it is narrated by Zayd ibn Arqam. The dua, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-'ajzi wal-kasal. The Arabic is such a rich language that ajz and kasal, some people may translate it as incapacity or laziness. But the difference is, Ajz is when a person wants to do something, but their body is not capable of it for whatever reason. And then kasal is you have the physical ability to do it, but you don't have the energy or motivation for it. He says, وَالْفَرْقُ بَيْنَهُمَا أَنَّ الْكَسْلَ تَرْكُ الشَّيْءِ مَعَ الْقُدْرَةِ عَلَى فِعْلِهِ وَالْعَجْزُ عَدَمُ الْقُدْرَةِ عَلَيْهِ. And then he says, "Oh Allah, I seek refuge from you, وَمِنَ الْجُبْنِ وَالْبُخْلِ." That jubn is somebody has what they need to do, but they don't have the, whatever resources they need, but they don't have the confidence and bravery to fulfill. الذي هو ضد الشجاع وهو عدم الإقدام على ما ينبغي فعله والبخل. And then the other thing the Prophet sought refuge from is from stinginess, is that, so jubn is, he says, not being able to fulfill something appropriately while not having the capacity. Where he says, بخل هو منع ما يجب بذله من المال مع توفره والقدرة عليه. Bukhl is not just stinginess, but the person has the wealth or the ability to fulfill an act, but they refuse to do so because of the evil of their nafs and their stinginess. And he says, وَالْجُبْنُ وَالْبُخْلُ هُمَا الْأَخَوَانِ. He says, cowardness and stinginess, they're like brothers. لأن بهما يحبس الخير عن العبد والنفع لنفسه ولبني جنسه. Because these two, they prevent one from getting khair for himself or benefiting others. لأنه إما أن يكون منع نفعه بيده. He can either benefit someone by his hand, وهو الجبن, and what blocks that is cowardice, أو بماله, or through his wealth, وهو البخل, and that's stinginess. ولهذا قرن في الأحاديث بين هاتين الصفتين. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he made refuge, he sought refuge from وَمِنَ الْهَرَمِ, from old age, that a person's body becomes weak and has no strength. And he says that in another hadith, that there are two things that have, two diseases, there's no cure for them. One is death, and the other is old age. Right? And then he sought refuge from وعذاب القبر وفتنة الدجال. And then he sought refuge from the punishment of the grave and the greatest fitna to come on the earth, al-Dajjal. And then going back to our topic of the nafs, he said, Allahumma ati nafsi taqwaha wa zakkiha anta khayru man zakkaha anta waliyuha wa mawlaha. That, O Allah, give my nafs its share of taqwa. So before explaining this, the commentary, he says, واستعادته صلى الله عليه وسلم من هذه الأشياء لتكمل صفاته في كل الأحوال. That the reason the Prophet ﷺ made refuge from these 5 things first, and then of the dunya, and then the 2 in the well, not only 5 in the dunya, but the punishment of the grave and the fitna of the Dajjal. Then he sought refuge from these things so that his qualities could be complete in all circumstances. وأيضا لتعليم أمته, and also to teach us his ummah. فإنه صلى الله عليه وسلم معصوم من كل ما يشين. The Prophet ﷺ is protected and safeguarded by Allah from anything that would spoil his deen. وقد غفر الله له ما تقدم من ذنبه وما تأخر. Allah forgive all his sins, past and future. وبعد أن استعاذ بما يضر النفس سأل الله ما يصلح تلك النفس. So these things before, he sought refuge from, because the commentator explains that they will harm the nafs. And then he made dua for what would help the nafs. Oh Allah, give my nafs a share of that taqwa which would guard it from the haram and forbidden acts. وَيَسِّرْهَا لِفِعْلِ الطَّاعَاتِ, and give it the ability to make it easy for it to do good deeds. وَمَا يَقِيهَا الْعَذَابِ, and that which will save it from the punishment. وَزَكِّهَا, and purify it. أي طهرها من الرذائل والأخلاق الدنية, and purify it from the low character and the evil and filthy morals and acts. And then he says to Allah, أنت وليها يعني سلطانها, O Allah, you are the one who is the master and controller of my nafs. والمتصرف فيها الذي يتولاها بالنعمة في الدارين, and you are the one who takes its protection through your blessing in this world and the hereafter. ومولاها متولي أمورها ومالكها, you are the one who controls its affairs and you are its master. And then the Prophet ﷺ, going back to our topic of how the dua tells us what to know about the nafs. ثم استعاذ صلى الله عليه وسلم من علم لا يكون نافعا في نفسه. The Prophet said, اللهم يعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع. Allah, I seek refuge in you from knowledge that has no benefit. And then what does knowledge that has no benefit, what does it do to the heart? وَمِن قَلْبٍ لَا يَخْشَى. Then it leads to a heart that has no fear and reverence of Allah, because it's been filled with something wrong. Like I heard a good example by Mufti Mink, maybe somebody else said it. It's like all these electronic devices we have. It has maybe 120 gigs memory, 512 gigs, 1 terabyte. It's got a limit, right? If you filled like 90% of it with bad stuff and there's only 10% left, he said it's similarly like our mind and our heart. It's like we learn all these bad things, and then the person says, oh, it's so hard to memorize Quran, or it's so hard to memorize Hadith, or it's so hard, because they filled most of it with the wrong stuff, and Allah knows best. So it's just something to consider. So he says that the Prophet ﷺ, he sought refuge from knowledge that is not beneficial. And he gives the example like كَعِلْمِ النُّجُومِ, like horoscopes, or people that take omens from what's it called? As if stars have the ability to benefit or harm on their own. والكهانة, or sorcery, وكل ما لا ينفع في الآخرة, and everything that has no benefit in the hereafter. أو يكون نافعا لكن لا ينتفع به صاحبه, or the person has good knowledge that's beneficial, but they're not acting on it, so it doesn't benefit them. فلا يعمل به ولا يعلمه الناس, or he knows it and he doesn't teach it to other people. ولا يهذب الأخلاق والأقوال والأفعال, and this knowledge does not lead to improving his character and his speech and his actions. واستعاذ أيضا من القلب الذي لا يخشع فلا يسكن, and then he sought refuge in Allah from the heart that has no humility before Allah, and because of that it doesn't find peace, it doesn't find rest. ولا يطمئن بذكر الله تعالى, it does not find rest in the remembrance of Allah. ولا يخشاه, and it doesn't have fear of Allah out of knowledge and reverence. لأنه يكون قاسيا لا تؤثر فيه موعظة ولا نصيحة. That heart will not take effect from a sermon or admonition. Other people, they listen to a lecture and they have a big benefit and a good response to it. And Allah knows if their heart is in a more sound, state. But some people, their heart is so hard that it just, whatever they hear, it bounces off. It doesn't affect them, and it doesn't have benefit. And And then coming to the nafs, the Prophet ﷺ, then he made dua, وَمِن نَفْسٍ لَا تَشْبَعُ. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from a nafs that does not have satiation. You know, some people, there's not anything that's sufficient for them. If they have 1,000,000, they want 2,000,000. If they have one house, they want two houses. If they have one car, they want two cars. And it's not the fact that they need this to fulfill their need. It's just a matter of greed, you know. So similarly, the nafs, it's from its evil qualities. He says that التي لا تشبع بما آتاه الله. It is not content and satiated with what Allah gave it. ولا تقنع بما رزقها الله من الحلال الطيب. And it is not content with what Allah sustained it with from the pure and lawful. لأنها تكون متكالبة عن حطام الدنيا متجرئة على المال الحرام. And this greed may lead it to wanting to take the wealth through haram means. فلا تزال في تعب الدنيا وعقوبة في الآخرة. Then they will continuously be in toil and being tired and chasing the dunya in this world and in punishment in the hereafter. And then the last one he said, وَمِن دَعْوَةٍ لَا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهَا. And then these things, what they lead to, dua is not answered. Dua is not answered. So he sought refuge in this. He said either, the commentator says, this dua may not be in another narration, وَمِن دُعَاءٍ لَا يُسْمَعُ. Allah hears everything, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't listen with Aib al-Rahmah or Aib al-Qabul. Allah does not want to accept it. Like the hadith I say, or in the ayat, لا ينظر الله إليهم يوم القيامة ولا يزكيهم ولهم عذاب أليم. Some people Allah will not look at on the day of judgment, nor will He purify them, and for them is a painful punishment. Meaning He will not look at them with rahmah. Everything Allah sees and nothing can escape His vision. فكأنها غير مسموعة لكونها معصية. Some dua is not heard because it is a sin the way the person made it. Or ما لا يرضاه الحق, or Allah is not pleased with it. Or المراد التعوذ من عدم استجابة الدعاء المطلقة. Or it's just seeking refuge, the Prophet ﷺ, from any dua that is not accepted in general. لأن رب سبحانه هو الذي يعطي ويمنع القابل الباسط. Allah is the one who gives and He prevents and He expands and He restrains. فإذا توجه العبد إليه في دعائه ولم يستجب دعوته فقد خاب الداعي وخسر. Because if a servant turns to Allah in dua and Allah doesn't accept his dua, then the one who has called Allah has lost. لأنه طرد من الباب الذي لا يستجلب الخير إلا منه. Because then he has been rejected from the door that good cannot be attained except from it. ولا يستدفع الضر إلا به. And no one can be safe from harm except through their door. So he says, فهذا حديث عظيم من أعظم الدعوات النبوية. This is a great hadith, and it is from the essential du'as of the Prophet. وقد جمع فيه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم التعوذ من أصول الخصال المثبطة عن العمل وسأل فيه أصول الخصال المحفرة له. This is the Prophet ﷺ had jawami' comprehensive speech that he asked Allah to save him first from anything that stops you from doing a good deed, and then he asked for those things that help you do a good deed. So I know I'm kind of running behind schedule. Inshallah, we'll move quickly with the rest of the lecture. So then the Prophet ﷺ, about the nafs, he told his daughter Fatima radiallahu anha to mention each morning that Anas radiallahu anhu narrates that قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لفاطمة ما يمنعك أن تسمعي ما أوصيك به تقولين إذا أصبحت وإذا أمسيت يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك أستغيث. And he said, "Oh Fatima, what will stop you from listening to what I advise you that you say when you wake up in the morning or in the morning and in the evening, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, O Allah, the ever living, the one whose life never preceded non-existence, and his after and never will a time come that he is not in existence, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Qayyum, Allah is the one who fulfills the needs of all his creation, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Qa'imu bi nafsi, that no one can benefit or help Allah in any way, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he fulfills all of the needs of his creation. And then after praising Allah, she said, he told her to say, bi rahmatika astaghith, oh Allah, I implore you of your rahmah, your mercy. Aslih li sha'ni kullah, oh Allah, rectify for me all my affairs. Wa la takilni ila nafsi tarfat ayn. And then the evil of the nafs, don't leave me to my nafs for even the blink of an eye. That little bit of time, Allah, don't leave me alone to my nafs. Meaning we need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if Allah abandoned us, then we are from the losers. And then Imam al-Shawkani rahimahullah, he mentions about this dua in his kitab Tuhfatul Dhakirin, which is his takhrij of the hadith of Hisn al-Hasin of Imam Ibn al-Jazari. He said, وَالْحَدِيثُ مِنْ جَوَامِعِ الْكَلِمِ. This hadith is from comprehensive speech of the Prophet لأن صلاح الشأن كله يتناول جميع أمور الدنيا والآخرة. يفوز شيء منها فيفوز قائل هذا إذا تفضل الله عليه بالإجابة بخير الدنيا والآخرة. That this dua includes all of the things that are necessary for the success of one's dunya and akhirah. So no one will attain any bit of success saying this except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through his bounty and generosity, will accept his dua by giving him the good of this world and the next. مع ما في الحديث من تفويض الأمور إلى الرب سبحانه وتعالى. This hadith also includes, consigning our affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فإن ذلك من أعظم الإيمان. This is from the best of stages of Iman. وأجل خصاله, and from the most noble of its characteristics, وأشرف أنواعه, and the most honorable of its kind. So now we'll kind of get to know the nafs in its categories. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, he mentioned 3 categories of the nafs, and this is from Ihya Ulumuddin al-Ghazali rahimahullah. First he explains the nafs. He says, هو أيضا مشترك بين معاني ويتعلق بغرضنا منه معنيان. The nafs has more than one meaning. Right? So he says one of them is that أنه يراد به المعنى الجامع لقوة الغضب والشهوة في الإنسان. It refers to the comprehensive ability of the human being to have anger or to have carnal pleasures and desires in the human being. على ما سيأتي شرحه, and he says its common explanation will come. وهذا الاستعمال هو الغالب على أهل التصوف. This usage of the word is common with the people of Tasawwuf. If you hear Sufi, there's many different strands and stratas. لا مشاحة في الاصطلاح, but that a third of our deen, as the Prophet ﷺ, was taught in the famous hadith by Jibreel, hadith Jibreel, that Umar explained, that he asked him, Mal Islam? He asked him, what is Islam? He explained, these are the pillars of Islam. Mal Iman? What is Iman? These are the 6 pillars of Iman, the Prophet explained. And then Jibreel asked, Mal Ihsan? What is Ihsan? So, Ihsan is not something independent of Islam and Iman. Like we need Islam and Iman to reach Ihsan. And Ihsan is a higher level encompassing those 2 and 1. So sometimes people just put all the Sufis in one category because some of them have done innovations, or they attribute themselves to being Sufis, and they do innovations or they do prohibited acts. invent things in the religion that are not from it. And then this is يعني, guilty by association for those who have this same goal of tazkiyat to nafs and islah nafs. And then all of them get put in one bad category, which is not correct. But this is a big part of our religion. One third of our religion is ihsan. And it's also, its foundation is from the Quran and from the Sunnah. It's not like somebody has to يعني, invent their own way. You know? As Allah told the Prophet وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. In the end of Surah Al-An'am, Allah explained one of the 10 commandments, right? The things Allah prohibited, the biggest of sins. And then after those sins, Allah, He told the Prophet to tell the people that, and this is my path that is straight. So follow that path and don't follow the other paths because it will divert you from this path. So all those that want to reach Allah, then their goal is simple, they just follow Muhammad, right? Just like in fiqh, the madhahib, no matter what their muassis or founder is, or mujtahid is, be it Abu Hanifa or Malik or Shafi or Ahmed or they're taking from the Quran and Sunnah, right? They don't go looking for another person to take a dalil from. They're doing their best to make and understand what reached them from Rasulullah. So similarly, those who are imams and leaders of tazkiyah and spirituality and purification of the heart, then their manba' and their source is also the Prophet. They should learn from the Prophet. Anyway, sorry, so I just wanted to add that kind of side note. So long story short, he says this term is used a lot by people in Surah. لأنهم يريدون بالنفس الأصل الجامع للصفات المذمومة من الإنسان. Because what the people of Tazkiyah refer to the nafs is the comprehensive and collective assortment of all the blameworthy qualities of the human being. So that's why they say there is not an option except the person goes against his nafs and he dominates it. لأن لابد من مجاهدة النفس وكشفها. And then he quotes a hadith that goes back to Al-Kharaiti in اعتلال القلوب and Abi Malik al-Ash'ari and Imam al-Bayhaqi in Zuhd from Ibn Abbas that the Prophet was attributed to him, said, أَعْدَ عَدُوٍ لَكَ نَفْسُكَ الَّتِي بَيْنَ جَنْبِكَ. The most dangerous enemy that you have, the most dangerous enemy you imagine, he included all the enemies, is the nafs that is in between your two sides. Al-Ma'na al-Thani, what is the other attribution of the nafs? He says, هو اللطيفة التي ذكرناها التي هي الإنسان بالحقيقة. Nafs in the Quran is also used for the human being himself, the life of the human being himself. But anyway, after saying that, the three types of nafs in the Quran that are mentioned, number one is nafs mutma'inna. Some translate as the contented soul. And Allah, He calls in Surah Al-Fajr, يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. That all contented soul, come, return to your Lord pleased, and He is pleased with you. Enter into my servants, and then enter into my Jannah. والنفس بالمعنى الأول لا يتصور رجوعها إلى الله تعالى فإنها مبعدة عن الله وهي من حزب الشيطان. So he says, in this category, nafs, it's not, logical, or it doesn't seem plausible that it goes back to the first category, the one that has all the evil qualities of the human being. Because he says this type of nafs, it would take one far from Allah, and it would be from the group of shaitan. وإذا لم يتم سكونها ولكنها صارت مدافعة للنفس الشهوانية. Oh, excuse me, I missed one part. But he said, فإذا سكنت تحت الأمر, when the nafs submits to the command of Allah, وزايلها الاضطراب بسبب معارضة الشهوات, and it opposes the evil desires that comes to it, سميت النفس المطمئنة. Then it gets that name, nafs mutmainah, the contented soul. Then he says, if the nafs, ولكنها صارت مدافعة للنفس الشهوانية ومعترضة عليها. When it does both, sometimes it opposes the evil and sometimes it doesn't. So he says, سميت النفس اللوامة, it is called the self-reproaching nafs. Sometimes the person feels guilty. They might have done something wrong. Why did I see that? Why did I see that? Why did I look at that? Why did I eat that? Why did I, miss that? Because لأنها تلوم صاحبها عند تقصيره في عبادة الله. Because that nafs, it blames itself for its negligence and shortchanging in the worship of its master, Allah Azza wa Jalla. And Allah, He explains in this one, in Surah Al-Qiyamah, لا ولا أقسم بالنفس اللوامة. Allah swore by the self-reproaching nafs. And then the last category, so we're going from best to worst, وإن تركت الاعتراض وأذعنت وأطاعت لمقتضى الشهوات ودواعي الشيطان, when it leaves off avoiding the desires and it follows its desires and the calls of shaitan, سميت النفس الأمارة بالسوء. Then it is called the nafs that is it is ever inclining towards evil. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned, some scholars say this is the words of Yusuf alayhi salam, the Prophet himself, in Surah Yusuf, or it is the words of Imra'atul Aziz after she admitted that Yusuf was innocent and she was the one who was wrong. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي, I do not absolve myself from the possibility of doing evil. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ, indeed the nafs is ever inclined to evil. وقد يجوز يقال المراد بالأمارة بالسوء هي النفس بالمعنى الأول. And then he says some people can use this word of the nafs being inclined to evil to the first category he explained, and that is the one that has all the evil qualities. Another way to understand the word nafs, and this is from الرسالة القشيرية, he says that so he says that نفس الشيء في اللغة وجوده, that the word nafs in Arabic in its linguistic meaning is its existence. وعند القوم ليس المراد من إطلاق لفظ النفس الوجود ولا القالب الموضوع، إنما أرادوا بالنفس ما كان معلولا من أوصاف العبد. So his book focuses on the terminologies of suluk and spirituality. So in that science, the word nafs, he says, it is referring to the characteristics of the slave, وَمَذْمُومًا مِنْ أَخْلَاقِهِ وَفَعَالِهِ, and those that are blameworthy from his character and actions. And then he says that some of these reasons or blameworthy character that he has is in two categories. أَحَدُهُمَا يَكُونُ كَسْبًا لَهُ, some are from his actions that he earned himself, كَمَعَاصِي وَمُخَالَفَاتِهِ, like the disobedience of Allah, the nafs does or opposing the command of Allah. So doing what Allah prohibited or not doing what Allah commanded. It says the second is أخلاقه الدنية. The second is its low and blameworthy character traits. فهي في أنفسها مذمومة. It is in itself blameworthy. فإذا عالجها العبد ونازلها, when the slave works against it and treats it, تنتفي عنه بالمجاهدة, it will leave him by striving hard. تلك الأخلاق على المستمر العادة, those character traits by being perpetual and consistent. So this is the first group. فالقسم الأول من أحكام النفس ما نهي عنه نهي تحريم أو نهي تنزيه. That which has been prohibited, it has been prohibited from either that is clearly haram and unlawful and sinful, or that out of being makruh tanzih, or something that is disliked but is not sinful. And the second, he says, وأما القسم الثاني من قسم النفس قسمي النفس فسفساف الأخلاق والدنيء منها, is the low character. هذا حده على الجملة ثم تفصيلها. He says that is its general definition, and its examples in detail are like kibr, arrogance, والغضب, anger, والحسد, jealousy, والحقد, hatred, rancor, وسوء الخلق, bad character, وقلة الاحتمال, وغير ذلك من الأخلاق المذمومة, and not being able to forbear and withhold, and other types of low character. And he says, وَأَشَدُّ أَحْكَامِ النَّفْسِ وَأَصْعَبُهَا. Some of the hardest traits of the nafs are توهمها أن شيئا منها حسن أو أن لها استحقاق قدر ولهذا عد ذلك من الشرك الخفي. That it perceives something to be good, or some of it to be good, or that it deserves something, share from it. And he says that's why the act of riya, like showing off, doing a good deed but you want other people to praise or see you, that has been included in it from lesser shirk or hidden shirk. Okay, so I'll skip this one, but there's one part I include in the notes, that a lot of people, when they look at tazkiyah, they focus on the diseases of the heart, right? And Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentions in Ighathatul Lahfan min Masayid al-Shaytan, he wrote a book on how to avoid the tricks of shaitan. And anyway, in that, before he gets into the subject, he gives like an introduction, and he says, الباب الحادي عشر, the 11th chapter, في علاج مرض القلب من استيلاء النفس عليه. How to treat the heart when the nafs has dominated over it. He says, هذا الباب كالأساس والأصل لما بعده من الأبواب. He says this nafs is, this chapter is like a foundation for everything that will come after it in chapters. فإن سائر أمراض القلب إنما تنشأ من جانب النفس. It says many and all of the evil diseases of the heart, they come from the side of the nafs. فالمواد الفاسدة كلها إليه تنصب. He says all of the evil and spoiling things that come is originated to the nafs. ثم تنبعث منها إلى الأعضاء. And then from the nafs it spreads to the limbs of the body. And then he says very briefly, he says the nafs is divided into two categories. And this isn't different than the ayats we mentioned in the last reading. But he explaining how people behave with their nafs. He says, فَإِنَّ النَّاسَ عَلَى قِسْمَيْنِ. People are in two categories when it comes to dealing with their nafs. Let me read the one before. It says, وقد اتفق السالكون إلى الله على اختلاف طرقهم وتباين سلوكهم على أن النفس قاطعة بين القلب وبين الوصول إلى الرب. It says that all those who are journeying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, despite the different, طرق, like in fiqh we call madhab, right? For the physical action. So those who specialize in tazkiyah, they call it tariqa, right? And that's another subject on its own. But despite their different turuq and tariqas, وَتَبَايُنْ سُلُوكِهِمْ, and the differences in how they journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they all agree unanimously على أن النفس قاطعة بين القلب وبين الوصول إلى الرب. The nafs, it blocks one from reaching, or it blocks the heart and from reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وأنه لا يدخل عليه سبحانه ولا يوصل إليه. That nafs will not allow the person to reach Allah Azza wa Jal إلا بعد تركها, until he leaves the nafs وإماتتها بمخالفتها والظفر بها, and he also averts it from the path by opposing it and gains dominance over his nafs. So he says the people are in two categories. قسم ظفرت به نفسه فملكته وأهلكته. One group is the nafs, they dominate the person and it controls them and destroys them. وصار طوعا لها تحت أوامرها, and the person follows, obeys his nafs, whatever it tells him to do. The other one, he says قسم ظفروا بنفوسهم فقهروها فصارت طوعا لهم منقادة لأوامره. A group that they have gained control of their nafs and they dominated it, and the nafs obeys them instead of them obeying the nafs, and it leads them to the or the nafs submits to whatever the person commands it to do. And that's why Allah, He says, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Whoever fears the standing of his Lord and the day of judgment when he stands before Allah, and he suppresses his nafs in this dunya from doing the following its desires, then it will be فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Its abode will be in Jannah. So then the last reading, and then we'll just go into example inshallah and conclude. That Imam al-Qayyim, he mentions in his Kitab al-Fawaid, he says, what is the relation between the ruh and the body? We have a soul, which is from the alim al-samawi, from the skies, right? And the body is from this earth, right? So he says the son of Adam was created from the earth, and his ruh is from the realms of the skies, and the relationship between them is what we feel in Ramadan, hunger. When your body feels hungry, and he stays up at late doing ibadah, he stays up at night doing ibadah, and he establishes it in the service of Allah, وَجَدَتْ رُوحُهُ خِفَّةً وَرَاحَةً. His soul feels peace and comfort and goodness. فتاقت إلى الموضع الذي خلقت منه واشتاقت إلى عالمها العلو. That person now, his soul will yearn for the realm that it came from, because our soul is from Jannah, right? And then واشتاقت إلى عالمها العلو, it starts to yearn for the higher realm. Instead of being engrossed in this worldly life, it will yearn for Jannah. وإذا أشبعه ونعمه ونومه واشتغل بخدمته وراحته أخلد البدن إلى الموضع الذي خلق منه. But when his body is busy with filling its stomach and eating or eating, not be like the essential amount that our body is, but the person is just going into the food just for the taste of it, beyond whatever his nutritional need is, and he delights it, and he engages in a lot of sleep, and he gets into busy with serving his body, then his body, it will want to indulge in the place it was created from, which is the earth. فانجذبت الروح معه فصارت في السجن. So then the soul, it feels like it's imprisoned in the body, because the soul wants to be in the alam samawi, in the higher realm, and yearns for Jannah al-Akhir. فلولا أنها ألفت السجن استغاثت بالألم ومفارقتها وانقطاعها عن عالمه الذي خلقت منه كما يستغيث المعلم. It says the same way the person, when they're being tortured and they scream out of pain, it's like the ruh will feel that when it's neglected from the dhikr of Allah and the obedience of Allah and taking some detachment from the needs of the body. And then to conclude, he says, فَإِنَّ النَّفْسِ. He says, فَآثِرْ أَحْسَنَ الْمَعِيشَتَيْنِ. Pick the best of the two lives, وَأَطْيَبَهُمَا, and the more pure of them, وَأَدْوَمَهُمَا, and the more lasting of them, وَاشْقِ الْبَدَنْ بِنَعِيمِ الرُّوحِ, and make your body kind of detract from its needs so that the soul can enjoy its delights. وَلَا تَشْقِ الرُّوحَ بِنَعِيمِ الْبَدَنِ, and do not lose your soul because of the delights of your body. فإن نعيم الروح وشقاءها أعظم وأدوم, because the delights or the punishment of the soul is more longer and lasting. The soul never dies. The body may die, so that وَنَعِيمُ الْبَدَنِ وَشَقَاءُهُ أَقْصَى وَأَهْوَنُ وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ. And the delights of this body and its pain is much less than the body. So I'm sorry for taking too long. But the last part I was just going to read kind of like an example so we understand what is our nafs like. So this is from the kitab of Abu Bakr al-Ajurri. He wrote a book called Adab al-Nufus. So he says, اعلم أن النفس مثلها كمثل مهر الحسن من الخيل. The nafs, the example of it is like a very good and fine looking horse. إذا نظر إليه الناظر أعجبه حسنه وبهاؤه. When the person looks at the beauty of the horse, he becomes amazed and delighted and impressed. فيقول أهل البصيرة به لا ينتفع بها حتى يراد رياضة حسنة ويؤدب الحسن. The people who really know horses, they will tell the person, if he wants to buy that horse, that you will not benefit from this horse until this horse is trained and tamed, right? And then he says, فَحِينَئِذٍ يَنْتَفِعُ بِهِ, then he will benefit from it. فَيَصْلُحُ لِلطَّلَبِ وَالْهَرَبِ, then the horse will take you where you want to go, or it will save you from where you fear. ويحمد راكبه عواقب ويحمد راكبه عواقب تأديبه ورياضته. And then the one who rides the horse will praise the horse in the end for its good training. فإن لم يؤدب لم ينتفع بحسنه ولا ببهائه. If the horse is not trained, then that person will not benefit from its good look and its appearance. ولا يحمد راكبه عواقبه عند الحاج. And the rider then will not praise the horse in the end when he needs to ride. فإن قيل صاحب هذا المهر قول أهل النصيحة والبصيرة به علم أن هذا قول صحيح فدفعه إلى رائد فراده. So then when the person who owns the horse says, or if it is said about the person who owns the horse, قول أهل النصيحة والبصيرة به, what the people who advise him and wish him well say, علم أن هذا قول صحيح, he will know that this statement, that I will not benefit from this horse until its train is correct. فَدَفَعَهُ إِلَى رَائِدِ فُرَاتٍ. Then he will take the horse to someone who will train it. ثم لا يصلح أن يكون الرائد إلا عالما بالرياضة. And then it's only correct for the one who trains the horse to know how to train, right? معه صبر على ما معه من علم الرياضة. He should have patience on that he has from the knowledge of training. فإن كان معه علم بالرياضة ونصحه انتفع به صاحبه. If that trainer has knowledge of training and he wishes well, then the owner of the horse will benefit from it. فإن كان الرائد لا معرفة معه بالرياضة ولا علم بأدب الخيل أفسد هذا المهر وأتعب نفسه ولم يحمل راكبه عواقبه. It says if the trainer has no knowledge of training or he doesn't know how to train the horse and how to discipline it, then he will ruin this colt or horse, and he will make himself tired in the process, and the rider will not praise it in the end. وإن كان الرائد معه معرفة الرياضة والأدب للخيل إلا أنه مع معرفته لم يصبر على مشقة الرياضة وأحب الترفيه لنفسه وتوانى عما وجب عليه من النصيحة في الرياضة أفسد هذا. And then he says, if the one who has the knowledge of training and disciplining the horse, but he doesn't have patience on the difficulties of training, and he loves to just be comfortable and relaxed, and he is lazy from what he should do and wishing well for the training the horse, then he will ruin this horse. وأساء إليه, he will treat it bad. ولم يصلح للطلب ولا للهرب. And this horse will not go where you want it to go or save you from where you're trying to escape from. وكان له منظر بلا مخبر. And it will have an appearance that it can be a strong and good horse, but it will not be able to benefit the person. فإن كان مالكه هو الرائد له. If the owner is the trainer of the horse himself, ندم على توانيه يوم لا ينفعه. He will regret on a day that it's too late to regret. حين نظر إلى غيره في وقت الطلب قد طلب فأدرك وفي وقت الهرب قد هرب فسري وطلب فهو لم يدرك وهرب فلم يسلم. So فلم يسلم. That he will regret the fact that the horse will not take him where he wanted to go, nor will it run away from where he wanted to escape. كل ذلك بتوانيه وقلة صبره بعد معرفته منه. All of that was because of his lack of patience and his laziness after recognizing what was needed to train the horse. ثم أقبل على نفسه يلومها ويوبخها فيقول لما فرطت لما قصرت لقد عاد علي من قلة صبري كل ما أكره. He will tell himself and he will blame himself and reproach himself and say, why were you negligent? Or why were you exaggerating? Everything that I detested has come back to me because of my lack of patience, or everything I don't like has come back to me because of my lack of patience, and Allah is the seeker of help. Then the last example is one that is on the similar subject, but Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentions in Madarij al-Salikin, and it is in the 3rd volume, I believe. That second volume. He says on the 7th page that Imam al-Qayyim, he says in Madarij al-Salikin, فَالنَّفْسُ جَبَلٌ عَظِيمٌ شَاقٌ. The nafs is like a huge mountain that is difficult. شَاقٌ فِي طَرِيقِ السَّيْرِ إِلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. It's difficult to travel on it while journeying to Allah Azza wa Jalla. وكل سائر لا طريق له إلا على ذلك الجبل. And he says every person trying to travel to Allah, they have to go through this mountain, which is the nafs. فلا بد أن ينتهي إليه. That there is no other option but to end through this journey. ولكن منهم من هو شاق عليه ومنهم من هو سهل عليه. He says some people this journey is difficult for them, some it is easier. وإنه لا يسير على من يسره الله. And this journey is easy for the one whom Allah makes it easy. We ask Allah to make it easy for us. Amen. وفي ذلك الجبل, he says on that mountain there are awdiya, there are valleys, وشعوب and ravines, وعقبات and pitfalls, and there are I tried to look up some of these words, but I didn't understand how their application here. But my assumption is that he's referring to poisonous plants and fruits that are there, like huckle and blackberry thorns. And he says that there are thieves on this path who are trying to block the path for those who are trying to journey to Allah. وَلَا سِيَّمَا أَهْلُ اللَّيْلِ الْمُدْلِجِينَ. And he says especially those that are journeying at night. فَإِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ مَعَهُمْ عُدَدُ الْإِيمَانِ. If they don't have strong iman with them, وَمَصَابِيحُ الْيَقِينَ, and their lantern, before electricity, they would use lanterns. Many places in the West they use. If you go camping, their lantern is yaqeen, certainty. تُنْقَذُ بِزَيْتِ الْإِخْبَاتِ. The oil that lights these lanterns, he said, is humility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِلَّا تَعَلَّقَتْ بِهِمْ تِلْكَ الْمَوَانِعِ. He says, or else these traps will catch them. وَتَشَبَّثَتْ بِهِمْ. It will catch them, تِلْكَ الْقَوَاطِعِ. Those that are trying to strip them away. وحالت بينهم وبين السير, and it will block them from their journey. فإن أكثر السائرين فيه رجعوا على أعقابهم لما عجزوا عن قطعه واقتحام عقباته. It says most of the travelers, that when they see how difficult it is to avoid these dangers, they go back down the mountain because they're not capable of doing it, and the dangers of the pitfalls that lie ahead. والشيطان على قلة ذلك الجبل يحذر الناس من صعوده وارتفاعه ويخوفهم. He says after this huge mountain, all the dangers with the nafs, he says on the top of the mountain is shaitan, and he warns the people from ascending the mountain, and he tries to instill fear in them. فيتفق مشقة الصعود وقعود ذلك المخوف على قلته وضعف في عزيمة السائر ونيته فيتولد من ذلك الانقطاع والرجوع. It says when all these combine, the difficulty of climbing the mountain and shaitan standing at the top of the mountain instilling fear on people, and the lack of azim, strong resolve and dedication to the journey of the one traveling and his intention, then all of these things will bring out the fact that the person will come back from the journey and stop going. وَالْمَعْصُومُ مَنْ عَصَمَهُ اللَّهُ. And he says the one who is protected is the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected. وكلما رقى السائر في ذلك الجبل اشتد به الصياح القاطع وتحذيره وتخويفه. He says every time the climber gets higher on the mountain, the screaming of the one trying to block him and warn him and is still fearing him gets louder. فإذا قطعه وبلغ قلته انقلبت تلك المخاوف كلهن أمانه. He says when he gets to the top of the mountain, all of that fear that people try to send him will give him now peace and security. Amazing. Right? وحينئذ يسهل السير. He says then the journey will be easy. وتزول عنه عوارض الطريق ومشقة عقباتها. And then he says that the عوارض الطريق, those things blocking them on the path and the difficult pitfalls on there, will become easy, and they will be removed, and it will be easy for them to travel. ويرى طريقا واسعا آمنا يفضي به إلى المنازل والمناهل عليه الأعلام وفيه الإقامات قد أعدت لركب الرحمة. Then he will see a wide path that is safe, and he will be able to go to high levels and beautiful pastures and springs of water. And he says on it are landmarks that he فيه الإقامات قد أعدت لركب الرحمة, places that the people that are journeying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will find things to help them on their journey. فبين العبد وبين السعادة والفلاح قوة عزيمة وصبر وصبر ساحة وشجاعة نفس وثبات قلب والفضل بيد الله يؤتيه من يشاء. This is between a slave and success is the fact that he needs strong ambition or strong resolve, determination. No matter what happens, I won't quit. And patience for some time, and to have courage and the strength of the heart, and virtue is in the hand of Allah. He gives it to whom He wills, and Allah is the giver of good blessing. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahumma ati nufusana taqwaha wa zakkiha